Welcome to Podcasting Smarter, the podcast for podcasters by podcasters. Podcasting Smarter is the official podcast from Podbean, featuring podcasting interviews, best practices, and helpful tips. We're here to give you the tools, resources, product updates, and news to help you get started podcasting and keep your podcast growing.
Hello and welcome to Podcasting Smarter. This is Norma Jean Belenke, Podbean's head of events. And in today's episode, we're speaking with Podbean's podcast specialist, Roni Gosch, on why your podcast needs a newsletter. This is an episode that is also directly linked from our blog, so we'll have the link here in our show notes. This is an episode that is also on our blog, and we'll have the link here in today's show notes. Stay tuned, and here we go. Hey, Roni, how's it going?
Going fantastic. How are you doing, Norma Jean?
Good. I'm so excited to talk about newsletters. We talk about newsletters a lot overall in terms of discoverability and launching your podcast and so many other things. And in the past, we've even done an event on using your newsletter to build, I think, a corporate podcast. And in the past, we've even done an episode on using your newsletter to build your podcast. So first of all, this is just a quick refresher, right? Like newsletter tune-ups, why you need one, how to use it, how to make the most of your podcast audience with your newsletter. So first off, how can a newsletter benefit your podcast in terms of audience engagement and growth?
So it's no secret that the big thing for podcasters right now is trying to get on every single social media channel possible. And while that might seem like a fantastic strategy on paper, actually going through with it and trying to build that audience on every single platform, it's extremely tiring. It's exhausting. You're stretching yourself way too thin. And you are dependent on each of those sites being up and running 24/7. If a site goes down, then your audience on that particular platform isn't going to be able to access anything from you. You're not going to be able to share information about new episodes. You're not going to be able to quickly build that connection with anybody. And so what a newsletter does is it lets you cut out the middleman of having Facebook or Twitter be the guy that's getting your content to your audience, to your listeners. And you just say, hey guys, here's a direct thing from me. Here's the deets on my latest episode. Here's a sneak peek on something that's coming up in the future. Here's the transcript from my last interview. And you get to send it directly to your listeners' email inbox or to their social media their social media texting service of choice. You get to send it directly to them, no middleman. If Facebook goes down for a day and takes everybody with it, you can still send that newsletter out. So you can still keep that connection going without having to be dependent on other sites.
Absolutely. And the algorithms as well. That's a really big one, right? The almighty algorithms. Yeah.
Yes, that's everybody's favorite thing. How do I hack the algorithm in my favor? It's like we do have posts on that, but we're all holding hands and staring into the void of the algorithm together, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something where you don't want to wait to see, hopefully, if your posts pop up, right? You want to make sure that your content is going to the people you know who love it. So that's why newsletters are so personal as well. And what are some effective strategies for building and growing a newsletter for your podcast?
So much getting your podcast started, it's not something that's going to happen 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye. It's something that you're going to build up over time. When you first kind of start putting your newsletter together, think, okay, I want to include the important bits. I want to let them know, hey, I have a new episode coming out. I want them to know, hey, this is the plan for future episodes. I want them to have a quick way to reply to me or email me. So maybe have a, ask me section. And then as you get into the groove of building your newsletter, as get more familiar with it, you can add extra things like, oh, hey, here's fan mail. Here's, quotes from my reviews on different sites. And then when it comes to growing it and getting more people to check it out, it's one of those things where it can be your CTA in your episodes. You can say, hey guys, remember to register for my newsletter. Remember to subscribe to the text messages that go out. And as long as you keep reminding people that it's there and you keep giving them a place where they can connect with you, they're going to sign up for it. They're going to want to keep connecting with you and engaging with the content that you're putting out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And another thing, John, who's been a fantastic guest on Podcasting Smarter before, he told us that the best way that he found to grow his newsletter was to do a giveaway for the newsletter. So, say, hey guys, or everybody who's registered for the newsletter, we're going to do a giveaway for an Amazon card. So if you register for the newsletter, you're put into the pot to win an Amazon card. and it like tripled his newsletter following.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great tip as well. You want to incentivize people to take that extra step because they're going to want that content, but sometimes it's just one of those things where you think, oh, I'll do it later, or maybe I'm not ready, or all those kind of things. So it's something where it really incentivizes people to make sure that they're on your team and that you're able to be in their inbox directly. Absolutely. And it really helps establish a deeper connection with your podcast audience because it's not something where they're going to see it passively, right? It's actively coming into their inbox. So I think that's a really great point as well. And psychologically, right? It's like you're getting a message or it's like you're getting communication directly directed to you versus seeing something that is out there for everyone and you feel like you can engage with it or not. So I think that's a really important aspect as well. And Ronnie, in terms of what podcasters want to put in their newsletters, what are the key elements to keep your subscribers engaged and coming back for more?
So, one of the key things that I think you need to implement when you're putting together your newsletter is that, much like your podcast, you want to have like segments that people are going to depend on. So, for example, if you have fan mail, always keep that fan mail going. Say, oh, hey guys, here's a review somebody left on a site, or here's an email somebody sent because they wanted to add to the discussion. Include what people are saying to you and then respond to them through that newsletter in a place where everybody can see. So once they see that you're engaging that way, people are going to want to engage in the same way. Beyond like that segment, you can have a wide variety of different things there, but as long as you are, segmenting things that people can trust and people can rely on and you are continuously engaging with everybody, people are going to continuously engage with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to set the tone for your community as well, which is a really fun aspect. And in terms of sending that newsletter out, there's a lot of tools out there. So let's talk about a couple of them to help people streamline the process of creating and managing a podcast newsletter. Also on Podcasting Smarter, we've had just some incredible guests, and Ariel Nissenblatt from Earbuds Collective and Squadcast.fm even said when she started her newsletter, she was BCCing everybody in Gmail. So there's a lot of tools out there, and we want to make sure that you evolve. And everybody starts somewhere. Now Ariel's taking over the podcast world, but it's something where it's important to know what the tools out there are and how to use them.
Oh, absolutely. And the number one tool that I recommend is actually MailChimp. It's super easy to get in there. They give you a lot of features to play around with for free, so you don't have to invest your budget in it right away. You can, play around with it to see if that tool works best for you, figure out the strategies that work best, the segments you want to utilize. And we actually have a plugin for MailChimp for Podbean. So if you utilize that plugin, it will let you have your newsletter sign up available for listeners that go to your Podbean site. And it will also give them a heads up when you are publishing your new episode. So they'll get that email notification through your newsletter to say, oh, hey, your favorite podcast just dropped a new episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got so many amazing integrations here at Podbean. We have the link here for the MailChimp plugin here in the show notes. It's something where there's so many little tools and features of the platform. We want to make sure you know what they are, how to use them, and how to make the most of them to really build your audience. So that MailChimp plugin is really fantastic because as soon as people go to your Podbean website, we talk about this a lot. Every podcast at Podbean comes with a free website, which is fantastic. So once your listener pops on that website, they're going to be able to immediately add their email in with that plugin, and then you've got them on your team for a good long while, which is great. Ronnie, next, before we go today, can you share some success stories from what we've seen in terms of podcasters using newsletters?
Of course. Going back to our colleague John, before he was at Podbean, he ran a wrestling podcast, and their newsletter, they built it up to 800 or 900 people. And that was even after that initial boost from having that giveaway. They still continue to grow beyond that. And they were able to really cultivate that audience for their podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something where find your people. Every podcast has a niche, right? So make sure that when you're building that newsletter audience, you're reaching out to the community that you're making your podcast for, essentially. And we talk about this a lot. We're talking about your audience avatar and who you're podcasting for. So it's a really important aspect as well. Well, Roni Gosch, thanks so much. And for everybody out there, we've got the link to our blog and the MailChimp plugin here for you in the show notes. Thanks so much and happy podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Podcasting Smarter. If you have any podcasting questions or want to get in touch, send us an email at podcastingsmarter@podbean.com. Thanks so much and happy podcasting.